Hello students, welcome to AIMS India online classes. This is a chemistry session. Here we are discussing about the chapter atoms and molecules. In this session, we are going to see about some concepts like atomicity, valency of elements, and different kinds of ions. So these concepts we are going to see in this session today. First, let us go through the atomicity. We know that molecules of many elements such as argon, helium, we know what are these elements are called. What are these? They are called noble gases like helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon. These all are called noble gases. Why they are called so means the atoms of these elements they do not react with any other elements and even they do not react with themselves also, so they are called noble gases. And along with these noble gases, even metallic elements also, like iron, potassium, copper, silver, gold, these all will come under metallic elements. So these elements are made up of only one atom of that element. Means they exist in the atomic form. Single atoms they exist together to form this matter like elements of this. But this is not the case with most of the non-metals. Yes. So these noble elements and metals mostly they're existing in the form of atoms. But mostly non-metals are not existing like this. In non-metals, the molecules contain more than two atoms of the same element. Yes, mostly non-metals are existing in the molecular form. The molecules which contain two or more than two atoms of the same element. The number of atoms constituting a molecule is known as its atomicity. Yes, the number of atoms present in one molecule of an element is known as its atomicity. For example, a molecule of hydrogen consists of two atoms of hydrogen, isn't it? Whenever you write hydrogen or hydrogen gas, how do we write it? We represent it as H2. Means there are two hydrogen atoms in each molecule of hydrogen gas. So the number of atoms in this molecule of hydrogen, in each molecule of hydrogen, represents its atomicity. Got it? Atomicity means the number of atoms present in one molecule of an element is called its atomicity. So hydrogen exists with two atoms in each its molecule. Hence, the atomicity of hydrogen is 2. So as atomicity is 2 for hydrogen, this is also known as diatomic molecule. So hydrogen molecules are diatomic molecules. What does it mean here? Di represents 2. Atomic molecule means in this hydrogen molecules contain two atoms of hydrogen combined together. Each molecule of hydrogen is formed by the combination of two atoms of same hydrogen. So as there are two hydrogen atoms in each molecule, its atomicity is said to be 2. At the same time, it is also known as diatomic element or diatomic molecules. Okay, did you get the atomicity meaning? Atomicity means the number of atoms present in one molecule of an element. If I say oxygen, how do we write oxygen gas? Oxygen molecules will be written like this, O2. That means in each molecule of oxygen there are two oxygen atoms. So its atomicity also said to be 2. Oxygen is a diatomic gas or diatomic element. Okay, if you say ozone, it contains three atoms in it, so it is triatomic. In this way, based upon the number of atoms present in one molecule of an element, its atomicity is defined. Observe the atomicity of few elements given here in the tabular form. Say different kinds of elements are represented here with single atoms in their molecules and some other with two atoms, three atoms, and even some elements are there with more than two atoms also. Those elements which are containing more than two atoms in their molecules are generally considered as polyatomic elements. If you see, first they have given some elements like argon, helium, neon. What are these elements called as we have discussed earlier? These are called noble gases. So in noble gases, molecules will be containing a single atom. So they are said to be monoatomic gases, monoatomic elements. Not only these noble gases, even metals also considered as monoatomic. If you observe at the last, they have given sodium, iron. So these are metallic elements. So noble gases as well as metallic elements also, they contain single atoms in their molecules. So these are called monoatomic elements. Their molecules are said to be monoatomic molecules. And some gases are there, non-metallic gases like oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, chlorine. These non-metallic gases mostly they exist in the diatomic molecules. Means in each molecule of those gases there will be two atoms. So they are called diatomic gases or diatomic elements. Can you say an example for a triatomic element? Yes, exactly. Triatomic element is ozone. Earlier we have seen once about this ozone. This is one of the gases present in the upper layers of the atmosphere, that is in the stratosphere, which protects us from the harmful radiation coming from sun. So there is a major help from the ozone to the human being, living things on the earth. It protects us from the harmful radiation coming from the sun. It will filter that harmful radiation there. So, this ozone is a gas which is made up of the molecules containing three atoms of oxygen in each molecule. As there are three atoms of oxygen, it is said to be triatomic gas. Ozone is a triatomic element and its molecules are said to be triatomic molecules. Okay, here one more they have given say phosphorus. Phosphorus is also one of the nonmetals. It contains four atoms of phosphorus in each molecule. So it is said to be tetraatomic. Tetraatomic, simply we can say polyatomic. Here poly represents many. Polyatomic means many atoms are combined together to form one molecule. So, if there are more than two atoms in each molecule of an element, then it is generally said to be polyatomic. So, we can say ozone, phosphorus, they come under polyatomic. So, to say exactly with the number of atoms present in each molecule, ozone is said to be triatomic, phosphorus is said to be tetraatomic. Tetra represents four atoms. Similarly, if you see sulfur, sulfur molecules contain eight atoms in each. Eight atoms combine together to form one molecule of sulfur. So sulfur is said to be octaatomic. Octa represents 8. So octaatomic element is sulfur. It contains 8 atoms in each molecule of sulfur. Okay, these are called polyatomic elements. Okay, this is about atomicity. Atomicity means number of atoms present in one molecule of an element. There will be some elements with a much higher atomicity also. For example, carbon. Some of the forms of carbon they contain around 60 to 120 atoms of carbon in each molecule, which we are going to learn in the higher classes. So here carbon contains in some forms of it nearly 60 to 120 atoms of carbon in each molecule. So that we can say as polyatomic element. Atomicity is very high there. Okay. To understand the atomicities of the molecules of elements and compounds, we need to understand the concept of valency. So, what is the atomicity of each and every element? To understand this, if we know about valency, then we can understand a little clear about this atomicity. So, why atomicity of some elements is being 2 and for some it is being 1, why it is being 4 for some other elements. So, to understand this, first let us know about the valency of these elements. So, let us see here the concept of valency. Till now, there are over 118 elements known, isn't it? Yes, scientists they have discovered so far 118 elements. These elements react with each other to form compounds. Yes, out of these 118 elements, almost all the elements are reactive except a few. What are those few? Some noble elements are there. Except those, remaining elements are reactive and they react each other to form certain compounds. Every element has a definite combining capacity. Yes, each and every element will be having a certain combining capacity for it to combine with other elements that determines the atomicity of its molecules. So that combining capacity of the element determines how many atoms to be in each molecule of it. That is nothing but atomicity of that. So based upon the combining capacity of the elements, atomicity is determined for the molecules of those elements. So every element reacts with each other element according to its combining capacity only. So these elements will combine with other elements and even themselves also based upon this combining capacity. This combining capacity of the elements is said to be valency. So we can define the valency as the combining capacity of an element is said to be valency. Let us see here the valencies of some elements. So actually these valencies are dependent on the number of electrons present in their last shells, which are also called valence shells. So based upon the number of electrons present in the valence shell, the atom valency of that element will be dependent. So based upon the valency, its atomicity is dependent. So based upon the number of valence electrons, valence electrons means the electrons present in the last shell of that element or outermost shell of that element. Based upon that, valence will be varied from one element to another element because we're telling this is a combining capacity of the element. So based upon the number of valence electrons, this combining capacity will be varied. See here for some elements, the combining capacities or valencies are mentioned. If we see first element, helium. For the helium, the combining capacity is shown as 0. Why? Because helium is having stable configuration. It has only one shell. In that shell, two electrons are there. That means first shell is completely filled. So helium is satisfied with its configuration. It won't react with other elements even itself also. That is why its combining capacity is said to be 0. If we see for hydrogen, fluorine, chlorine, for these elements, valency is shown 1. Means their combining capacity is 1. They combine with one more element there. If you see oxygen, the combining capacity of oxygen is 2. That is valency is 2. For nitrogen it is 3. For carbon it is 4. So atoms of elements have power to combine with atoms of other elements. This power or this combining capacity of elements is called its valency. Okay. Now let us see ions and radicals. In addition to atoms and molecules, a third type of particles occur in substances. Yes, not only atoms and molecules, one more type of particles also occur in general substances. These particles are said to be ions. An atom or a group of atoms carrying a charge are called ions or radicals. Okay, an atom or group of atoms nothing but molecules. Atom or molecule which is carrying certain charge on it. That charge either might be negative charge or positive charge. Those charged particles are said to be ions or radicals. Generally, if a single atom if it is carrying charge, either positive or negative, then it is said to be ion. And if a group of atoms carrying charge, either positive or negative, then they are said to be radicals. But both represents charged particles only. There is no difference. Okay. An ion is formed when electrons are removed from or added to an atom or group of atoms. So how these ions are formed? As we told, the combining capacity of elements depend on its number of valence electrons. So if the valence shell contains required number or satisfied number of electrons in it, then that element will be stable. If it has no satisfactory number of electrons in the last shell, that will either lose electrons or gain electrons. So based upon this, the number of electrons gained or lost, the charge will be created on those atoms or group of atoms. So thus we can say ions are formed when atoms or group of atoms either they gain electrons or lose electrons to become stable. Okay. For example, if you see here, sodium is one of the elements which is containing only one electron in its valence shell. Because if you see the atomic number of sodium 11, can you write its configuration? It will be having 2 electrons in its first shell, 8 electrons in its second shell, and 1 electron in its outermost shell. So how many electrons in the outermost shell now? Only one electron. Is it going to be stable with this one electron in the outermost shell? No. So to become stable, there should be 8 electrons in the last shell. So sodium is now not a stable element. It will try to become stable by either losing that one electron or by gaining 7 electrons. Which will be easy here, losing of one electron or gaining of 7 electrons. It will be easy, that is losing of an electron. So sodium in chemical reactions it will lose its electron, last valential electron, and hence it becomes stable with the configuration 2 comma 8. What happens after the last of losing of an electron? The configuration becomes 2 comma 8. Now in its last shell there are 8 electrons, so that it can be more stable like neon. So as it is losing one electron, it will get 1 unit positive charge. How this is getting this positive charge on losing one electron? Let us see that also. We know sodium will be containing 11 electrons and 11 protons, isn't it? Because of that only its atomic number is given as 11. So number of negative charges are nothing but electrons is 11. Number of positive charges or protons is also 11 in neutral sodium atom. To become stable, as we are telling, it will lose one electron. After losing of one electron, what happens? It will be with 10 electrons only. 10 electrons, but there is no change in the number of protons. So what happened now? Total positive charges are being 11. Number of negative charges became 10. So 1 unit positive charge is more. That is represented in its power in the superscript at the right side. So now it is called sodium ion. This is formed by the loss of one electron by neutral sodium atoms. Sodium on losing one electron forms sodium ion. Okay. Let us see one more example. If we see here chlorine. Chlorine also will form an ion by gaining one electron. Why it will gain? Let us see based upon the configuration ones. We know its atomic number is 17. If you write configuration for 17, how do we get it? 2 comma 8 comma 7. That means there are 7 electrons in its last shell or valence shell. Will be it stable with the 7 electrons? No. So to become stable there should be 8 electrons. Already it has 7 electrons. So in chemical reactions chlorine will be ready to gain 1 electron, so by that gaining one electron, it becomes Cl minus ion. Hope you understand why minus will come after gaining one electron. Initially there are 17 electrons, 17 protons. But by the gaining of one electron, the number of electrons becomes 18, whereas positive charges are being only 17. So 1 unit extra negative charge is there, that is represented in the with the minus symbol in its superscript at the right side. So this Cl minus ion is called chloride ion or chlorine ion. So some ions are formed by losing of electrons and some ions are formed by gain of electrons. Anyhow, these all are charged particles. These charged particles which are formed either by gaining or losing of electrons are called ions. Okay. When electrons are removed, the resulting ion is called, specially called cation. We told sodium loses one electron and forms positive ion Na+. So here these positive ions like this formed by the loss of electrons are called cations. So both are ions only, but especially here the ions formed by the loss of electrons are called cations. That means the positively charged ions are called cations. Cations are positively charged ions which are formed by the loss of one or more than one electrons by the elements. So Na plus is now said to be cation. We can say some more clearly unipositive cation. What does it mean? Unipositive. Unipositive means one unit positive charge ion. How will it be formed? One unit positive charged ion by the loss of one electron. So if you say sodium forms unipositive cation, from that we can understand sodium loses one electron and forms a positive ion with one unit positive charge. Got it? Next, when electrons are gained by the elements, the resulting ion is called an anion. So the ions formed by the gain of electrons by the elements are called anions. For example, so an anion is negatively charged ion. For example, we can say chlorine, as we said earlier, chlorine will gain one electron to become stable. So that it forms Cl minus ion. So the Cl minus ion is said to be now anion. Ions formed by the loss of electrons are called cations. The ions formed by the gain of electrons are said to be anions. Two kinds of ions are there, positive ions and negative ions. Positive ions are cations, negative ions are anions. For example, sodium chloride does not contain discrete molecules as its constituent units. Yes, in many molecules, atoms will be as constituents of these molecules. But but molecules like substances like sodium chloride, calcium oxide, these substances they do not contain molecules as their constituent units. They contain positive and negatively charged ions as constituent particles, constituent units in their substances. So, for sodium chloride, the constant particles are positively charged sodium ions and negatively charged chloride ions. But it does not contain, it is not to be said as NaCl molecules. NaCl molecules won't be existed in the sodium chloride. Actually, sodium chloride is a substance which contains its constituent particles as Na plus ions and Cl minus ions. Ions may be a charged independent atoms or a group of atoms that have a net charge on them. Yes, ions or radicals are the charged independent atoms or group of atoms. Group of atoms is polyatomic, that we said radicals. So that have a net charge on them. If it is a single atom, it will be charged shown there. If it is a group of atoms or radical, on that also there will be shown some charge. That is the total charge for those all atoms together. That is said to be net charge on them. Hence, ions are charged particles. So, the ions or radicals are said to be charged particles. These are formed either by loss or gain of electrons. Okay. Some common simple and polyatomic ions are shown here. See, sodium Na plus, hydrogen H plus, potassium, silver. So mostly metals they form positive ions which are also called cations. And non-metals they gain electrons so that they form negative ions which are also called anions. And here are some group of atoms ions also shown which are called radicals. If you see here ammonium ion, where is it? Here ammonium ion, it is said to be radical also. So ammonium ion formula is NH4 plus. So these are group of atoms, nitrogen with four hydrogens. Together they carry a one unit positive charge. This is not the charge for hydrogen or nitrogen. For the total unit of these molecules, NH4, total charge is net charge is plus 1. So this together called as one ion or radical, NH4 plus ion or ammonium ion. In the same way, hydroxide ion, OH minus. So the atoms together, hydrogen and oxygen together, they carry 1 unit negative charge. That is said to be hydroxide ion or hydroxide anion. See some more ions which we see frequently in our studies. They are shown here. Nitrate ion, hydrogen carbonate, which is also called carbonate ion, carbonate, sulfite, sulfate. So in this way, different kinds of ions or radicals are formed by the elements. Actually, phosphate ion PO4, it is -3 or 3 minus. So valency of an ion is equal to the magnitude of its charge. So for elements we have seen what is meant by valency. The combining capacity of an element is called its valency. By coming to ions, the valency of an ion is equal to the charge possessed by that ion, or the equal to the magnitude of the charge shown on them. It's a charge. For example, valency of chloride ion is, what is valency of chloride ion? That is equal to the charge possessed by this chloride ion. The magnitude of its charge, that is -1 it is there. So just magnitude we take as 1. Valency of chloride ion is 1. Let us see one more. Valency of sulfate ion is, what is the charge shown by the sulfate ion? Charge carried by the sulfate ion? 2, -2. So that magnitude is taken as its valency. So valency of sulfate ion is 2. Let us see one more. Valency of aluminum ion is, what is the charge shown on this aluminum ion? +3. So the magnitude of this charge is taken as its valency, that is equal to 3. Okay. Next concept, atomic mass. The most remarkable concept that Dalton's atomic theory proposed was atomic mass. According to him, each element had a characteristic atomic mass. Yes, each and every element will having a characteristic atomic mass for it. Since atoms are extremely light and small, isn't it? Can you see an atom? No, we cannot, because they're extremely small. Even we cannot see these atoms with the high sensitive, high-end technical microscopes also. We cannot see the individual atoms. That much smaller these atoms are. Hardly by using sensitive microscopes we can see molecules. Okay, that much smaller these all are. So scientists find it difficult to measure their individual masses. If they are being very small, which we cannot see even with the naked eye, then how to calculate their masses? So scientists felt a difficulty in measuring the masses of these individual atoms. Hence, the mass of the atom is compared with a standard atomic mass of some other element. So, the atomic mass of an element is taken as a standard, and by using this standard mass, they have tried to compare the masses of remaining elements. In that way, they have given the atomic masses for the elements. In 1961, it was universally accepted that the mass of carbon atom would be used as standard reference for measuring atomic masses of other elements. Yes, so scientists together they have all together they have accepted universally the mass of carbon 12 atom. Carbon here 12 represents isotope. We know carbon contains three kinds of isotopes: carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon 14. These 13, 14, 12 represents the atomic masses of those or mass numbers of those carbon atoms. So the carbon with mass number 12, its mass is considered as a standard unit. Based upon the mass of these carbon 12 atoms, the masses or atomic masses of the remaining elements are compared and proposed. Okay, observe the diagram here. Let us assume that the circle in the diagram represents the mass of carbon 12 or carbon atom. So this total circle represents, suppose this total circle represents the mass of atomic mass of carbon. So if it is divided into 12 equal parts as shown in the figure, and each part, so see here the total circle, if it is representing the atomic mass of carbon atom with atomic mass number 12. Now it is divided into 12 equal parts. Now each part represents 1/12 of atomic mass of carbon 12, isn't it? So total it is atomic mass of carbon. So it is divided into 12 parts. So each one part represents 1/12 of atomic mass of carbon 12. This one atomic mass unit is defined as the mass exactly equal to 1/12 the atomic mass of carbon 12 isotope. This one part from the atomic mass of carbon is considered as a standard unit for the mass to compare the atomic masses of remaining elements. This is noted as atomic mass unit. So this atomic mass unit is now simply called as AMU. This is defined as the mass exactly equal to 1/12 the atomic mass of carbon 12 isotope. So by taking this AMU or atomic mass unit as a standard, they have tried to estimate the atomic masses of remaining elements. The number of times one atom of given element is heavier than 1/12 mass of atomic carbon 12. 1/12 the atomic mass of carbon 12 is called as its atomic mass. Now, by taking this as a standard, they have tried to compare the atomic mass of remaining elements. So, how many times it is being heavier than 1/12 the atomic mass of carbon 12 is taken as atomic mass of that element. The atomic mass of an element is defined as the average mass of all the isotopes of that element as compared to 1/12 of the mass of the 112 carbon atom. Okay, if you take 1/12 mass of the carbon 12 atom, the number of times it is being heavier than this is said to be its atomic mass. If we take a balance, on one side if we keep this AMU or atomic mass unit at one side, and on other side if we keep the atom of another element. So how many AMUs are required to balance this one atom of a certain element? That number of AMUs is said to be the atomic mass of that element. Just it is a number. Number of times it is being heavier is called atomic mass. So atomic mass of an element is a ratio. So as we told, just it is a comparison. So just it is a ratio. Hence, it has no units. Atomic mass has no units. But it is expressed in AMU. According to latest IUPAC recommendations, the AMU has been replaced just by U, which is known as unified mass. Okay, as atomic mass is a comparison with 1 AMU, mass of an atom of an element is compared with the number of AMUs. How many times it is being heavier than 1 AMU, that is said to be the atomic mass of that element. Hence, it has no units. Just we write AMU as its unit. AMU is being replaced nowadays with U simply. U represents unified mass. Okay. Atomic mass of U elements are shown here. See, for the first 20 elements, atomic masses are shown. So they are the atomic masses of different elements. Atomic weights of elements were determined in the beginning with reference to hydrogen by John Dalton. Yes, we told here atomic masses of elements are determined by using 1/12 mass of carbon 12 isotope, that is taken as standard we told as AMU. But in the earlier days, they have taken mass of hydrogen as reference. John Dalton has taken the mass of hydrogen as a reference or standard, and they have tried to calculate the mass of remaining elements. Not only that, while searching various atomic mass units, scientists initially took 1/16th mass of an atom of naturally occurring oxygen as unit. Not only hydrogen, they have taken even oxygen's mass also as standard. 1/16th part of mass of an oxygen atom is was considered as a standard for the calculation of atomic mass of remaining elements. This was considered relevant due to two reasons. Why they have considered this oxygen mass as standard means there are two reasons for that. One of them is oxygen reacted with a large number of elements and formed compounds because oxygen can almost react with many elements. That is the reason why, so that it was become easy to compare the masses of other elements with the mass of oxygen. One more reason is this atomic mass unit gave masses of most of the elements as whole numbers. So by taking the mass of 1/18th mass of oxygen atom mass as a standard, they found the atomic masses of remaining elements almost in the whole numbers. So because of these two reasons, they have considered the 1/18th mass of atomic mass of oxygen as a standard unit. Earlier they have taken mass of hydrogen as standard, but these two are discarded nowadays. The mass of 1/12th mass of carbon isotope 12 is taken as a standard. It is being followed even now because of that most of the atomic mass are getting accurately. During 19th century, there were no facilities to determine the mass of an atom. Hence, chemists determined the mass of one atom relative to another by experiments. Okay, so till the 19th century, there were no proper equipments or facilities to determine the masses of an atom exactly. That is why they have followed this all by considering the mass of one atom as a standard, so that they are comparing remaining elements with that, and hence they have determined the atomic masses of remaining elements. But nowadays, atomic mass of an element can be determined very accurately with the help of an instrument called mass spectrometer. So nowadays we have some special equipments which can determine the atomic mass of an element most accurately. Those equipment we are calling as mass spectrometers. Okay, with this we are able to now calculate the atomic mass of every element. Okay, this is about atomic masses of elements. Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel AIMS Today and visit our website aimstoday.in for latest updates and recorded videos. Thank you.